when we are consistently in unpredictable, unsafe environments, will make it difficult to regulate our emotions. When our perception of reality is constantly messed around with. When we find ourselves consistently and repeatedly invalidated, threatened, intimidated, bullied, ignored, or betrayed. And this seems to be the foundation of all narcissistic relationships. And our brain goes into survival mode. From Johanna Kujath video. Be careful all you people in the mental health system, because in gaining your mental health back, and your ability to see things with clarity, you will start to see the dysfunction of narcissistic relationships doesn't affect just your family or other family units, it's a pervasive, ubiquitous system called the matrix that the family dynamic copies as a way of life. We behave towards each other as our controllers behave towards us. Invalidated, constantly, we are invalidated. Our needs aren't met, for starters. What about healthcare? What about a good living wage? What about when we say no and the government goes and implements the laws anyway? We fight Monsanto, Roundup, fluoride, and GMOs, yet they're still there. Threatened, going to war. In the Bush years, there was apparently war right on American soil. War is not a way of human life, peace is. Intimidated, how often have we heard of countries threatening airstrikes against other countries? How do you think the people in those countries feel, knowing they're about to be bombed? Yet we live with this all the time. Fortunately, someone thought up the idea of economic sanctioning, and this now is a precursor to threatening airstrikes, but in the same token, it will mean these same people will have to do without, possibly starve as their food supply imports are cut off and countries won't trade with them anymore. When you consider the entire world is run by the same people, they have their hands in virtually every country's pie and every country is indebted to them, then who is actually being threatened? Either one faction of this world's owners are threatening another non-compliant faction, or the people are being threatened. The deep state has simply replaced bullying with intimidation, a lesser form of the former. Bullied, threatening to go to war or airstrikes against other countries. Now commonly called peacekeeping missions, but we know this means occupation of the land in question as the deep state overthrows a leader who stands in their way of adding their country to the Illuminati banking system and global indebtedness to the deep state owners. Ignored, censorship on social media circa 2020. This is the government ignoring the message of the people who have gone beyond traumatization and who can speak up for themselves. Betrayed. Betrayal is a sense that goes so deep it's very hard to forgive. I feel governments are in this position now as we move towards Kesara law. They're going to have to really work to get us to trust them again. After all the lies, Watergate, for Canadians the GST tax, which was supposed to be temporary 30 years ago, Kennedy's assassination, weapons of mass destruction, COVID-19 death count, which is also a betrayal of the people. In so many ways our governments have betrayed our trust. Bill Clinton, as he lied straight-face and said, "I did not have sexual relations with that woman." It goes on. And it's daily. Just betrayal of our trust in them. Some lost that trust years ago, some are still trying to hang on because to lose that sense of trust, all is lost for them. It's not. This is a new beginning. In this system, the government and its cronies have set it up that you have nobody to trust but them. That's the way they've made it. You have to trust the system because you're so deeply immersed in it, that to not have any trust in it makes life difficult. Very difficult. You have never been taught to trust anyone else except some authority who feeds you lies and tells you what they want you to hear. The fact is, and it was always so, you had to learn to trust yourself first. That's step one in life, yet so many of us have not taken that step. We're still adult children, letting authorities do our thinking for us. I can tell you from experience, that the reaction to this is generally submissive compliance, but underneath, an explosive level of anger is building. We're seeing this now in people who have been ignored and oppressed for so long that they're raising cities and rioting on the streets. Our feeble compliance to the authoritarian domination of ourselves is over with, except for the ones who are still in this mode of submission. I call it a mode of victimhood because that's what you're going to be if you don't stand up for yourself. What's more, I believe thinking of the path of least resistance has a lot to do with it. Just don't make a fuss. Do what they say. I don't matter. The other ones who are giving in are the ones who believe the dominator. In fact, it's more like the Stockholm Syndrome, where the victim empathizes with their captor, believing their captor over what they themselves are thinking. Our world is being run by narcissists and we're only reacting accordingly. Me, what say you, Ivo? Ivo, my love, you are correct. Your world is exopolitically involved, but your news makes it out to be a political situation. The reason that you are told it is political rather than exopolitical, which is the involvement of extraterrestrial factions and warring members of the Illuminati fighting with each other, is because you are the pawns in this game. They are fighting with each other, yet you are the resource that dies for them. The soldiers who die in war do not realize they are fighting for a cause which they are not even aware of, and they are fighting another group of humans who may or may not be aware that they are here to occupy their land and make them a prisoner in the same way you are. There are very few countries now that are not run by the elite's banking system, only a handful. And they have resisted many efforts to keep themselves out of harm's way. So many have tried and failed to do so. The British Empire was a large spread of the Rothschild banking cartel, even in days of old where there were no banks. Understand that their explorers went forward to plunder goods in other lands. They were in search of jewels and gold, primarily, and many of Europe's cathedrals have the gold of other lands applied to their walls of stone. Gold is symbolic of power. It still is. Other valuables are silver, diamonds, rubies, sapphires, and more. They were all taken up by those who desired to have the most power on your planet. They understood that when Earthlings work with these precious metals and gems that they can become powerful beings, and so their desire was to remove as much of these from the surface of your planet so that you could not access them. Ironically, it is you they used to dig them out of the earth, so you became the cheap supply of labor for them. Your people believe they are here to dig the riches from the earth for others who are deserving of it, when in fact these riches were put there by you to empower yourselves, not strangers to your world. What does your gold band signify? Your marriage to another, marriage being an agreement according to your laws and the religious will of your controllers. How can you understand the power that gold band has when you believe it to be a symbol of a legal agreement? Yes, under God, but whose God? Who is the God of the Vatican, or the Church of England? Who is the God of the people? This is the difference I want you to see. Who is your God and who is the God of the satanic controllers of your planet? Whose law are you marrying under then? Where else have you seen rings? Around Saturn, that is the origin of the ring. Me, yes, mind control rings. They're being piped over to Earth. Good point, Ivo, but I'm sure we'll get some dislikes for that comment. Same as the codependent videos. Nonetheless, we tell it as it is here. People can start their own churches, forget connection to the Vatican or other churches. Start your own church and preach a loving God. Oh yes, they're often seen as cults, of course. This is what the church does when it wants to retain its power over us. It demonizes anyone undertaking any effort to become independent of them. It tells people that these churches are what they are. They accuse others of being like themselves because they believe they are gods and all else is beneath them. Some cults are negative, but if you preach a loving God, then there's no harm in that. Ivo, in so many ways you have been duped into creating your own demise. Had you known the powers of these valuable resources, you could easily have overthrown the cabal yourselves. But these secrets were hidden from you, and you will find scrolls containing that ancient knowledge in the basement of the Vatican, and you were given an economic system that tells you to look at gold and see it as a valuable commodity but nothing more. You dug up the gold and it was applied to the walls of their buildings, yes, as so many of the churches belong to the Vatican and the Church of England, for example, and you're empowered their power by believing what they told you about the gold. It was for rich people only. You could purchase some but only in relatively small amounts. They would not share the precious gems that are your birthright with you. They stole them from you. They made you dig them up by offering you meager wages, or they made slaves of many who did so, but you facilitated this theft by believing that you were not worthy of this gold, that only the kings and queens were, and that to see them bedecked in them was their birthright, not yours. This is not so. You are bejeweling thieves? Your birthright is this wealth of power, not theirs. Me, thank you Ivo, for telling us this. Ivo, you have been betrayed. Very much so, and this betrayal has been passed on by you for centuries, generation after generation believing the lies you have been told. Me, what about the California gold rush? The Klondike in Alaska? Ivo, yes, there was some gold but the richest continent is Africa. And look how they live. Africans would be the richest people on your planet if all would have gone according to God's plan. Me, wow. And it's one of the poorest because of deep state control. Ivo, your planet is a reversal of universal law and divine plan, in many ways. And this is because the deep state fears you. They steal from you all of your God-given resources so that they can feel safer. Then they tell you that they are the divine ones and should wear these jewels and finery, while you can starve. Yet this is your world, not theirs. They have stolen it from you. Speaking of betrayal. Me, time to make it right. Ivo, yes, in 500 years you will not recognize your world anymore. You will believe you have stepped onto another planet because it will be a world of re-empowered people, who will still speak of these times now, but they will be a peaceful race with God-given powers. And this is the start of that liberation. Me, thank God. Ivo, your people have trusted others who have lied to them. In believing lies, you have lied to yourselves. That is what lowers your frequency and keeps you under the spell of their black magic. The power of a gold bar is more than $500,000. The dollar is worthless, as is your entire economic system because it does not empower the human, it disempowers the human. True human power can be found in alchemy, not in economics. Me, thank you Ivo. Ivo, my love, you are most welcome. We will work on your knee tonight and you will have relief from the inflammation that is causing that pain. Me, thanks for loosening that frozen shoulder. Ivo, we realize that your body pain is stopping you from doing your life's work and so we are helping with alleviating it. We are contracted to do so, so there is no interference factor. Me, yeah, I can barely walk right now. Thank you. That will really help.